It's like I'm giving you an ovation every time you start a video, Tim. You're welcome. Like an alligator. Everything's perfect now. Let's get to this. We're gonna break out the full song of Message in a Bottle by The Police. Obviously, Stewart Copeland is on the drums. This is about 152 BPM, so it's moving pretty quick. And he builds this drum groove throughout the song and builds some variations on it. And I'll tell you something with Stewart, it's not that he does these things that are just, you know, mind-blowing. It's just that there's some very simple things he does or leaves out and omits that make this a really great drum part. Now, with the Police stuff, there's a lot of overdubs. There's also a lot of studio tricks in their stuff, so a lot of reverb and echo on hi-hats and things like that. So you may hear some different things in the recording than I'm talking about, like for instance in the beginning when we said on the first verse, there's an accent on the ride cymbal bell with every snare drum. If you want to try to do that, you can do that, but it's very obvious it's an overdub in the studio that they're hitting that ride cymbal bell with every snare drum. So just kind of know that there was some studio stuff done there. But let's go ahead and check out, oh, as well, if you want the full sheet music, that's in the video description. There's a download link for that. Please feel free. It's free as well. I'm going to pin a comment in the comments. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, I don't know what you're doing. You don't know what to do with your life. You need to do that because you're killing me. You're killing me, Smalls. Let's check out the intro here. At the intro, we're going to be on the hi-hats, and this is what I would call a reverse boom chick. So it's going to be snare, kick, eighth notes on the hi-hat. So it's going to go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now every now and then he'll raise the hi-hat on the upbeat. He does it in measure 1 on the upbeat of 4. He does it in measure 3 on the upbeat of 2. All right, that's the intro. That's the first 3 measures, and then he has a drum fill. It's going to continue that snare, kick, so 1 and a 2 and a 3 and then we have crash cymbal with the snare drum, which is a very staple thing or signature thing that Stewart Copeland does. He intersperses a lot of reggae root style drumming with rock drumming. He was one of the first to bring those over, as well as the drummer for the Clash he was bringing it over at that time as well. And so very reggae inspired with this. So the small things that he does, and that's kind of a Copelandism, that's crashing on 4 or the and of 4 and then leaving 1 empty. Although in the first of this verse he doesn't leave 1 empty, he crashes on that too. So that drum fill is going to go. Except this is moving, right? It's over 150 BPM, so we're going fast. Now going into the verse, he crashes on the 1, but notice after that he leaves the kick drum out of the 1 every time, okay? And he does a variation of this groove. So it's 8th notes on the hi-hat, 2 and 4 on the snare, and you're going to play and of 2 and the downbeat of 3 on the kick drum. So 1 and 2. So very much like the 1 drop, he leaves out the 1 of that groove, all right? So we need to be sure we do that. Now he's also raising the hi-hat. Sometimes he raises the hi-hat on 4 and sometimes he only raises the hi-hat on the and of 4. So I'll kind of play through that and let you hear what that sounds like. 3 and 4. One, 2, 3, 4. Now we're going to see that Copelandism that I just talked about. It's going to crop back up. If you look in the 8th measure of that line or of that verse, you're going to see that he crashes on 4, and then it's the upbeat of the hi-hat. So 1 and Okay, so omitting one is really, really important whenever you're playing through this song in the sections that he does omit one. Going into the chorus, he starts the chorus off on the hi-hat and he switches in the middle, which is an odd thing. He switches 4 bars into it. That's an odd thing to do in a pop song, but it works for whatever reason with this. So we come into the chorus and he's playing on the kick drum 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2. So all the eighth notes are being played. He's playing eighth notes here on the hi-hat and then 2 and 4 on the snare drum. 3, 4. All right, then at the 4th measure, we have a drum fill. It's going to go 1 and 2, and then lifting the hi-hat on the and of 2, the downbeat of 3, and then we're going to play 3 E and 4 E and Then he's going to move to the ride cymbal after he plays that drum fill. And on the ride cymbal, he's playing on the bell of the ride cymbal. Copeland likes the bell of the ride cymbal. And he's going to play quarter notes, okay? Same kick drum pattern, same snare drum pattern. But what he's going to be doing is placing a tom. Sometimes he does the second tom, sometimes he does the first tom. But the tom is going to go and 3. So he plays that all 3 different ways throughout this song. Sometimes on the high tom, sometimes the second tom, sometimes going from the high to the second tom. Just depends on which part of the song it is. Now, there's a drum fill coming out of this, and what we're going to do is he plays this drum fill several times. So we're going to play 1 and 2 with the right cymbal bell, so 1 and 2. And on the upbeat of 2, he plays 3 sextuplets and then crashes on 4, right? He doesn't crash on 1, he leaves 1 empty. So going into that turnaround, he's going to leave 1 empty, so he crashes on 4, leaves 1 empty, and then he's going to be walking the kick drum on all 4 quarter notes. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Sometimes he'll lift the hi-hat on the upbeats. Sometimes he'll play and sometimes he'll play 2 E and So it's going to go 1, 2, 3. Then we have 2 bars before the second verse. We're going to have a tom fill that he kind of revisits during the song. So playing the hi-hat 1 and 2 and 3, and the and of 4 is on the high tom, and of 2 of the next measure is on the middle tom, and of 4 is on the floor tom, and then he waits to crash until 2. So he keeps walking that kick drum. Let's play that very slowly. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, now he changes the groove when he goes back to a verse. Usually you go back to the same groove, right? He changes this groove up. And what he does is he settles, I'll give you the groove that he settles into. It's a 4-bar loop going around the toms. First measure of that 4-bar loop is the and of 2 and the downbeat of 3 are on the second tom. The second measure, the and of 2 and the downbeat of 3 on the high tom. Third measure, we're back to the second tom. And then the fourth measure, we go to the floor tom. Walking the kick drum on all 4, 8 notes on the hi-hat. So very slowly. 1, 2, 3, 4. One, two, three, four. So coming out of that turnaround, 1, 2, 3, 4. From verse 2, we go back into the chorus, then we're going to come out of the chorus back into the turnaround. And when we come to the turnaround, he starts adding some rim click to what he's doing. So if you check out, obviously, I told you the full transcription for this song is in the video description. Go download that so you can follow along, or also in the comment section, there's a link there. It's free, no strings attached. So that just did that so you can, have a visual what am I trying to say? So you can see visually what he was doing. There we go. Look in measure 6. He starts adding some cross stick type stuff, and I'll show you one lick that he uses over and over, as well as it is found in a lot of reggae drumming, or if you're into punk rock drumming, or the first, third, second wave of ska, it's used in that. So if you look in measure 6, he's still walking the kick drum. 1, 2, 3, 4, 8 notes here, but he plays and of every beat here on the rim click. And then going into that 7th measure, he plays the upbeat of 2 on the rim click, and then he's going to play the downbeat of 3. Now this is what starts a lick that he'll do over and over, and you'll see over and over in a lot of their music, as well as reggae music and other. It's this dotted 8th note rhythm. So it's going to go 3 E and a 4 and. All right, then he'll have a crash on 4 with the snare drum, and he kind of continues through that back into verse 3. In verse 3, you'll see him bring the backbeat back on 2 and 4, and he gets busier on the hi-hat. So there's a couple of variations that he does on the hi-hat, and he also starts doing another Copelandism, that we'll call it that. He starts hitting on the and of 3 and the downbeat of 4 with the snare drum, or the downbeat of 2 and the upbeat of 2 with a crash cymbal with that. Okay, he's usually putting a crash cymbal with one of those, or a splash cymbal. I don't have any splash cymbals, but he's usually doing that. So for instance, in the first measure, he's playing. Okay, so he gets a lot busier with his patterns whenever he's doing that. And there's a lot of variations in that. But if you skip down to the 3rd line and you're looking there, that 2nd measure of the 3rd line, that's going to be the 8, 9, to 10th measure of that last verse. You're going to see on the and of 3 that he crashes. Okay, so it's going to go. You'll see that again in 2 measures later. And then the next line, you'll see him crash on the and of 2. So it'll be going. So a lot of crashing on the upbeats and crashing on the downbeats with the snare drum. That's very much a reggae carryover from reggae roots type of style of drumming, where they're hitting with the snare drum instead of hitting with a traditional kick drum like we would in Western music. Then we head into that last turnaround where he brings it down, and when he brings it down, he does a lot more rim click work. So he's kind of built it at this point. And you remember that rhythm that I showed you, that three beats, but it's dotted 8th note. So if you want to begin to use this, let me kind of give you an exercise for that. Start it on all the downbeats and all the upbeats. So that rhythm started on the downbeat of 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 4, 3, 4, 1, 3, 4. Now start on the upbeat of 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. The downbeat of 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. The upbeat of 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 1. The downbeat of 3, upbeat of 3, so forth and so on. Then you can mix those. 1, 2, 3, 4. So if you start mixing those rhythms around and starting that on all different parts of that beat, you'll start to sound in the vein of what he's doing there. And then very quickly, the outro, he takes it to a halftime groove, 8 notes on the hi-hat, 4 quarter notes on the kick drum, and then he's hitting an accent on the snare drum on beat 3, which makes it in halftime. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. And then he kicks back into the regular groove, having the snare on 2 and 4, incorporating, accenting on the upbeats of 4, at times upbeats of 2, crashing with that. So it goes from this, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, goes into a couple of drum fills, goes to the ride cymbal, but that's essentially the outro for that song. So I wanted to cover all of the main parts, let you see how he builds that groove, and this is a very good example of a pop song that doesn't have a standard drum format, because every time he comes back to a verse, he's differing that groove and building it in a different way, and it's just a really ingenious way to build a part, as well as the little things, avoiding 1 in certain places, accenting the upbeats, the types of fills that he does, the rim click items that he does, that are all signature Copelandisms and that you should pay attention to. Those are things that I kind of put over in a file and go, okay, whenever I'm playing a Copeland's, a Please song, that would be acceptable, this would be acceptable, and I have several things that I go to so that when the listener's listening, I don't have to cop the complete drum chart exactly, but they understand that, like, oh, he's playing that drummer and this song in the style of. That's what we want to do. So if this has helped you, click that thumbs up button, share it with somebody that you think it may help as well. Leave me a comment. I love hearing from you guys. Let me know what your favorite Police song is or whatever it is. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that. I'm uploading 3 times a week, so lots of information. Download the sheet music. It's down below in the video description. And if you ever want an organized lesson plan system online for your drumming, go to the website, www.stevensdrumshed.com. And the Drum Better Daily program, that's exactly what it's meant for. It's very organized, it's very systematic, and it's catered to your personal needs. I help you do that. There's a forum on there with tons of people in there and hanging out and just bettering their drumming. So if you ever need that, that's there for you. But no matter what you do, I'll see you here in the next video.